Thank you, Daniela, and thank you everyone for coming back again. We had a tough week the first week of the month. It was a tough week and it ended with us having a really not such a great connection, but we're here again today. It's a new day, it's a new time, and we're really excited to be here to talk about winter wellness. And again, today I'm really going to highlight some resources that we've developed that we're hoping might be already building from what you're doing already, but it also might give you some ideas about how do we get through the next couple of months and we start into this new year. We know the winter brings a lot of changes and challenges in terms of many different things, in terms of weather. We're now getting past a lot of things with the holidays and a lot of other things in the world that have happened that have really just kind of gotten to many of us that are really often bringing a lot of stress and strain. So what I'm hoping today in this webinar is to kind of highlight a tool that we've used at the Wellness Institute. We've been using this tool over many years, and we're just so happy to bring it to you, that really looks at winter wellness from the lens of the 8 dimensions, many of the dimensions of wellness. So we're going to explore that and look at some factors to be thinking about. And then really hoping in, and that's really where the chat is, looking at your strengths. What are you doing already to increase your winter wellness to get through this? Thinking about some of the challenges that come about, acknowledging, give a nod to them, but then also thinking about maybe how this planner or this tool could be something you could use. We developed it for many years. We've done this in full day and half day workshops for people in New Jersey and other areas. But it's so great that we have people all over that are able to participate right now. So sort of this is our work plan for today, and we're going to move right into it. So in the winter, we know a lot of different things depending on where you live. There's a lot of changes and challenges to the weather. Often it's seen from like November to March or April. We kind of see that time. And a lot of times actually and as you go through this and you see the resources, be on the alert with our words of wellness. We actually start putting this out around November to help people start, using the Wellness Recovery Action Plan model, the WRAP model, planning ahead. But it's never too late to start like we're here today. So there's a lot of things that happen with the cold weather, the shorter days that happen for people, a lot of different things, the gatherings, and then later on after all the gatherings, often people we found were in the midst of the holidays or after the post-holiday blues, we found people really needed some time to reflect and connect. And we started doing this peer support with them, and we've kind of manualized it into this resource that we're sharing with you. And this is the resource that we'll be going into. You'll be receiving it, and it's something we'll be walking through. But we know the winter, particularly now, this winter, there's been some added stressors that we know that have occurred. And we can think about as we move into dealing with some of the stuff that's manifested itself over 2000 and it's carrying into 2001. 2021, we want to be thinking about how can we continue to build our resilience and continue to focus on our wellness, the 8 dimensional model that I talk about a lot: physical, spiritual, social, intellectual, occupational, environmental, financial. Keep that lens of wellness in our forefront as we think about what we're doing each day. What I did was, we've really been thinking about what can we do, to keep ourselves well and prepare. I know myself, as we start to go into that November, December time, there's a lot of stuff I do and adjust in my physical dimension that I have to always keep checked in on. And especially having this planner, I start checking in on that thing that helps to understand the sleep that's going to change, or the light exposure that's going to start to diminish, and how am I walking, and all my go-to wellness strategies start to have to be shifted. But how do we keep thinking about them and then shifting our routines and then keeping focused on our wellness? That there are things that we do each day, physically, spiritually, socially, emotionally, already, intellectually. There are a lot of things we do. So I want you to hear from you guys. You're here today, which is great. Thank you. You got here. What are you doing? What have you done now to stay well with your winter? What are you doing now to get here today? What have you done today or in the last week that really has kept you to keep well during this? What have you done physically or spiritually or social? I'd love to hear in the chat. What do you do now? Healthy eating, great. Bundle up and hike. Get out there and bundle up. We got to change our clothing, get that going. Great. What are some other things that people are doing for them? Attending support groups every week, using art. Oh, great. We're going to talk a lot about the arts because that's really important for many of the dimensions. Riding lessons, spending time in the barn with friends and horses, going for walks to keep the stress down, cross country skiing with the dogs, plants. Oh, great. That's really yoga at home on YouTube. So, church, play games on the phone, testing around with my grandsons. Great. Talk with family regularly. Wonderful. Lots of things people are doing, taking long walks, morning and evening Bible study, worship, prayer, and yoga, hiking. Things people are doing for, again, you can categorize them different dimensions. The daily routine, very, very important. We're going to see is important. Light therapy for 30 minutes, a light therapy box. Start the day off with the daily mass, exercise or sing in my time off. So it seems like people are cooking dinner for my elderly aunt and my uncle who've been married 65 years. Yeah, what a lot of good wellness dimensions have with that cooking, that connection, the social, intellectual, and perhaps emotional dimensions are really activated by these activities. Um, 2021 refocused volunteer efforts to rebuild the spiritual dimension. So a lot of things folks are doing, and the PowerPoint will be available. Someone also said drinking herbal hot tea. So a lot of things people are already doing, which is really great. And I've got again this tool that we work through um, helps you to think through these different things. So there are challenges that come about though, like you have these things and that's good, we keep them, but how can we continue to think about some of the other things that happen for people, particularly schedules change and daily activities change a lot of times with the change of the seasons or in the different months, being mindful of those and how do you keep those go-to wellness strategies going. It affects our energy and mood. It definitely does. I know, like, I'm just so looking forward to April and May where I'll have that a little bit more of that energy with some of the things that I like to do and getting out. But it just starts changing when we start to get around October, November, and even right now, it's been really tough with the energy level and motivation for certain things. Um, there's maybe extra resources. Somebody said, bundling up. You have to bundle up, get the right shoes on. I know a couple weeks ago I was just not able to go out because I was just waiting for my hip to be broken if I walked around and slipped on that ice. So you have to be thinking about these things that can impact those go-to wellness habits. And then there's just sometimes we just need different kinds of support that might come about that happens in the winter. And that's really where this tool, this planner that we did was just really like a wrap kind of a thing, but it's a little adjusted with the wellness dimensions and not even all of them, that we put together this planner that will go through a few pieces of it and hopefully we'll go through some of the exercises to get you thinking about this and then maybe doing it with your family, doing it with your friends, doing it with your colleagues. People just love it and it really helps them. So it goes through not all of the dimensions, but most of them. And you're going to see what I always like to say is any activity we do for our wellness always affects more than one dimension. So might be my physical dimension, the main one, but it's eventually having a resonating effect on the other dimensions. That's why we know the circles influence the way. So I think it's a really important start where, starting somewhere and just keep it. Somebody, don't let fear immobilize you, be motivation, someone wrote here. But the first piece we go out, if you walk, and I'm walking through this this booklet, it's a little bit of a booklet, connection, really important connection. We're really seeing a lot more about loneliness, disconnection. There was a good webinar I know that was done by NABRA just recently on loneliness and that whole importance of connection. So really, really in thinking about the connection. What can we do to just sit down and have a nice cup? Somebody wrote a cup of tea or a cup of cocoa with somebody and have that nice connection with someone, whether we're both on Zoom having it together, we're social distancing out in a park, whatever it is, keeping those connections with people, really important. more and more now, I think we've realized that we're always in this in our peer support work and our psych rehab work. We know the value of that. We really know it now. So finding out those ways to keep those connections and staying connected. So let's hear from you guys. Why share how social connection is important for you. Um, Anybody want to share anything about why connection is so important for you, or how you are staying connected with others? See if there's some coffee clutches with my members. Great. Keep your ideas coming, because you know what I find in these workshops is people learn from each other, hearing what other people are doing. So keeping those social media, people using the social media to stay connected. Really, really good things. And having a variety of things is important too. Having the variety of different things helps to feel less isolated, helps do people doing FaceTime, social media, Zoom calls. Really, really important using the virtual platform, Zoom meetings with friends, just keeping those story reading group with social distancing, um, being with family in California, being over there, being connected, being with people, important, or through the connection, but finding it whether, again, people talking about being safe with people, finding ways to be social distance, but be connected. Um, uh, People talking about Zoom church groups, visit virtual coffee and tea with family and friends. Really good ideas, and they can really help your day-to-day wellness, especially during the holidays, especially during this time. So, and you can go through the booklet as you go. We'll just be going, and you'll get the slides. Keeping active, definitely one thing. Hobbies, this is really where arts come in, and I'm going to reference the Academy of Peer Services. There's a Gail Blueberg is perhaps will maybe put into the chat the link to the course you can take on that, using the arts, finding ways to use the arts, keeping active. The arts are good with that. There's art, people using their creative skills, hobbies that people do. I think a couple people talked about some of the things like the hiking or the walking was something that people said they're doing. But what are you doing to keep yourself active, keep yourself going? Really, really important to keep ourselves active, keep ourselves. And again, it helps many of the different dimensions. You're going to see in our Words of Wellness newsletter. If you'd like to get on that newsletter list, let me know. In our January edition, I had two young 16-year-old and an 18-year-old talk about, did a little writing about how the pandemic affected them. And one of them talked about how, I mean, she really laid it out, the emotional and social and all the other disconnects that really hit her hard. But she highlighted how she learned how to play the guitar herself and started writing songs and was able to tap into that. Again, I was just so, people are doing these things. So let's hear those stories and help people to think, maybe, okay, are they learning a new skill, or are they reactivating something, or are they keeping connection? So we'll definitely send you the newsletter that has that one story, but it was just so great to see this 16-year-old sharing about that. But keeping active is so, so important. So there's the staying connected, there's keeping active. My colleague George, somebody said I'm returning to poetry writing. Great. My colleague George, who has a sister who's been locked in, she just spent starting in November coloring. She with developmental disabilities, an older young woman, but she loved to color. She colored all the Christmas and Thanksgiving cards, and she's just like so exciting when people are, showing that they put it on their refrigerator or they're thanking you. So she kept active doing that, but it was giving her back now more, that she was sending these things out to people, mailing them for the holidays. So really important to think about something we do to keep active, keep busy. Sleep and rest, really, really an important one to think about, especially how the sleep cycles and the rest, cycles are influenced by the changes in the weather, changes of the seasons. So being in tune to what's your body rhythm, that's so important um, for yourself, to keep yourself balanced. And again, sleeping, really important. There's the sleeping, getting the sleep, but there's also, do we take the time to rest, or do we engage in a restful activity? It's very, very important. And I think that that's one that we can, again, for all types of our wellness, it's important. But I think particularly at this time when the shifts and the challenges come about for people, be mindful about your sleep, your rest, and how are we looking at our sleep environment? How are we looking at our routines and our habits? Some of the things I talked about before, the social connection, the keeping active. We're going to talk a few minutes about the physical activity. They can actually help your sleep and rest if we get those routines in place. So being important about the sleep, it really can help us with our physiological body, our mind body, keeps us fresh, our intellectual side, but it also really helps in so many other ways. Other people, I'm seeing some really great chats about a conservatory for plants in a spare room, getting back to the keeping active activity somebody wrote, and writing stories based on a question my adult children send me. So love hearing these other kinds of things that people are talking about, the keeping active. So yeah, so it's the social connection, keeping active, sleep and rest, really, really important, the sleep and rest. Very disrupted though by the, particularly by the pandemic, and being able to keep that in check. Again, going back to planning, is the planning, really taking that time to plan. And that really helps us. That's why we develop these tools, people writing it down, people thinking it through, people recording things, and think um, when writing it down and planning it out can really help. It helps with the motivation. It helps with people to really commit to doing the activity that they want to do, but using that idea of planning and organizing yourself. And a lot of people have different things they can use electronically. There's paper planners, the resource that we gave you for this winter wellness planner is a good way of it. And then you can use other kind of creative ways to plan for yourself. But importance of planning can be really essential, and organizing it for yourself to keep it something that you will actually do. So that's really, really a critical thing. Again, getting back to the connection, I wanted to go back to this for a minute. Thinking about what you're going to do to stay connected. People said they're doing stuff, but you want to, and that's how the workbook goes. It thinks about what you're doing, but what you can do. Thinking about different ways to keep connection. And I love some of the examples we saw here that you can think about, and maybe there's ways you've heard from others that might be useful for you in terms of keeping connection with other people. So we encourage you to think about how you're going to keep those connections and build those connections with other people. And again, we're seeing people here from all around. That's great. And I think that's one of the things we can do is we can see people, we have more ways to connect now electronically, though the in-person or finding safe distance, social distancing kind of connections can be really important as well. So then the next piece that we think about in terms of planning, and again, you may just focus on a couple of areas. You might want to look at all of it. I'm going to try to go through the whole workbook to just give you the whole thing. But, you can just focus on a couple. That's okay. Keeping our mind active. Again, getting back to that activity you do. What are you doing to keep active, but what is it you do for your mind to keep the mind active? And this is really important because our mind, keeping our mind fresh, alert, thinking can be really important because of the effect of aging. Sometimes different kind of illnesses can affect our mind, but we can be proactive in doing things to keep our mind active. And again, that can be really helpful because I know so many people, myself included, and many people I know can get their mind caught up in a lot of negativity, especially with things that when things are going challenging in our lives or challenging in the world. But how do we keep our minds connected and active with some activity or some types of activities, particularly kinds of activities that keep your mind fresh and alert? So what are some things you guys do to keep your mind fresh, active, alert, and positive? Love to hear some things that people are doing to keep your mind active. Music, using music, wonderful. Music can be such a wonderful way to keep our mind. Getting a good book, dancing, playing with your dogs, doing puzzles, writing poetry, lots more reading, working out my brain, Sudoku, Great ideas, crafting, meditation, coloring. We saw that on the slide before. Newfound interest in crossword puzzles. Great. Um, Good hike, boarding card games, archery competition, audiobooks, online courses, learning a new song or taking a course. Excellent kind of activities that can really keep attending interactive training. Yeah, keeping our mind going, active learning, growing, keeps that mind fresh and it keeps us well. And it really can help us manage conditions we have where it might, somebody said watching a documentary, studying for a licensing exam. So those things that really using our minds, read a mini bio group of a new person weekly, word finding, crossword puzzles, great activities to think about. And they're things you can do, have them in your book bag, have them in your space, things you can pick up to do, especially if are starting to get depressed, starting to get frustrated, starting to get whatever. You have these things that you can pick up and do a little, and it refocuses our attention. Learning technology, we've all been learning on that, using our mind, and possibly my brain's getting a little overwhelmed sometimes with the technology, some of these things, but it's a good thing because now we know more, we can connect more, and we can do ways to creatively connect with people. So very important. Again, it influences a lot of the dimensions, and it definitely is something that can help. Moving is a really, really important thing. Just moving a little bit, not like working out all that time, which some people like that. That's great. I do have a good routine with that sometimes when I'm motivated, but I'm finding even now, just moving myself a little bit, just getting up and moving a tiny bit. And I want to just practice a short little neck one. And you do this if it's okay for you. We're going to stop right now and try it. Just moving ourselves just a little bit, like just taking those stretches and taking the time to do it, especially when we're in front of this computer all the time. I write notes on myself to do this all the time. And I actually have a video you can go to watch Dr. Susan Goldfoger doing this neck roll. And I'm going to try to do it. I don't do it as good as her. You can go to the website for this, but she can show you. So we're going to sit in our chair or wherever you are. We're going to just do a quick neck roll just for a minute to just practice this. Something you can do for a minute or so. So you breathe out and you bring your chin down towards your chest. And then we breathe up to the right and we swoop our head up and look a little towards the ceiling up on the right. And breathe in and out. And then breathe down to the middle. Then over to the left, we look up. Breathe in, and just breathe out. And then bring our chin down to the middle. Go up again, up and to the right, looking up, just moving our head just very slightly. Up. Bring our chin down to the middle. And then bring our head over to the left, looking up. Breathing in and breathing out. And then bring our head down to the middle. And just kind of, you can do that once or twice, or you can stop and just kind of think about how does it feel to just stop for a quick less than about a minute or so, and think about consciously just moving our neck to one, very lightly, very slowly to the right and to the left. How doable is something like that for you in your, to pull away from your Zoom or your whatever and to try that? I'd like to see in the chat how you feel, or how doable would that be to do just a quick neck roll, a minute or two a day during the day. Doable, very doable. A few people saying it's kind of doable. Feels, you just feels a little, you can do it for another couple of swoops. Just usually do each thing. Someone said needed that. Just do it for short intervals. A lot of the theme you're going to see about this, there are things you can do in short little moments, just snatch. Um, you know, um, Somebody said the post-it note. Yeah, that's what I need. I gotta put the post-it notes around. I gotta put the yoga mat so I fall over it, so I don't remember to do the yoga before. Um, Somebody said, forget how limited my range of motion is on a typical day. We're just like kind of stuck in that thing. But if we just pull it back, and then just even if we do our neck, and if you go onto this website, we have a lot more of these moving, very short move exercises, to pausing, to breathe, to move, to use just do some little body things. It really makes a difference, and then you can get back. And some people are putting that at this at about the 50 on the hour, so it's 11:50 or 12:50. They're putting it right in their calendar and looking at their calendar and pulling away. I've been trying to do that, not as successful as I can, but definitely doing it. Gets back to the concept of planning I mentioned. So just wanted to share that. I have a lot more resources on that, but please try to give yourself that pat on the back to do that for yourself, because it's going to make a big difference, even the little snatching little points of time. So think about how you can just move yourself. You don't have to go outside. You can, that's great. But inside, pulling away, doing some of these things, very, very important. And just keeping that busy, getting that active, keeping ourselves busy, as it said. The coloring has been such a great thing that people will have identified that they have done. But very, very important. Again, we've talked about that, keeping active. And then also, spending time outdoors is a big one that we find. And you'll see that in this slide deck. And getting out, even if it's just looking outside sometimes, if you can, but then getting out, bigger difference in thinking about our mood can change, the sunlight, the energy that we get can be really important outside, spending a little time, even if it's just, again, snatching those few moments of time outside. Someone also right here, I like here, walking outside with grandson just in the sunlight, and someone talking about having a stationary bike to do with their daughters. Yeah, the inside, that's a big one. People have gotten stuff inside more, indoor, outside, but very, very important to get outside and get out of the getting into the sunlight, getting into the fresh air can really, really help our mood. It can help so many aspects of our wellness. Next piece, again, this all of these activities that are mapped out here are really focusing on our self-care. What are we doing to take care of ourselves? Are we socially connecting? Are we being attentive to our sleep and rest? Are we keeping ourselves active, keeping ourselves connected? They really boil down to helping our self-care, caring for ourselves. We are important, and especially when we do work in this field, we want to be able to help other people, or so we have to be focused on taking care of ourselves. So self-care is important. And one of the things we find in self-care, kind of connecting back to the mind and the thought, is something what we talk about in here around affirmations. Keeping our mind focused on the positive, or affirming ourselves, that caring for ourselves and affirming ourselves and developing a set of affirmations for ourselves. There's a lot of good research more and more showing that this can really help people a lot. Many of us have seen this work in our own recovery programs using different kinds of affirmations, but we encourage you to think about, if you've done that before, reactivating it, or start think about your own affirmations that you can use for yourself to kind of help us, especially when we have those down moments, those down days. Things like I am, I can, I will. There's many ways you can develop your own set of affirmations that will really fit your own style. We also, in this booklet related to that video that I'll share around the movements, have a whole set of affirmations that we've outlined, and we've used them, especially with caregivers, and they really make a difference. Again, it's a thing where you can post it on a post-it note somewhere around the house, or people have different ways of, putting these reminders, because it keeps that mind focused on that positive, and it also helps to be a motivator for us, especially when we have those weak or dull moments where we're starting to feel low. So again, part of keeping the mind active, keeping focus. Someone wrote that they write quotes or thoughts of the day. And another related thing to this is the journaling that people do a lot of times. And sometimes with this wellness planner, people will use journaling. And again, it gets to that positivity, keeping ourselves positive, trying to focus on the positive, thinking about ourselves, recording it, creating some type of a journal, creating some kind of a way we can record our positive things. And sometimes people will use like gratitude journals or um, writing or recording what they're grateful for each day can be really helpful, especially to just take that time to reflect at some point. And there's some definitely, again, good research showing that working on our being thankful or grateful can really be helpful in our own emotional well-being and then the emotional well-being of others. If we tends to influence our sense of optimism, it can really be a positive habit that we can affect our mental health and also can really help us when we're maybe struggling or suffering or we have doubt with ourselves. These kinds of things can really help. And it also just can really be a way to kind of keep positive when things are getting so negative or we are putting those negative tapes in our head or we have those negative tapes coming at us with other people. Really important. And I know myself, I had a hard time with this one for a long time in my own thing because I'd be like, I want to be real, I want to be real. But then when I realized it's important to do this and practicing and doing it. Sometimes I didn't feel it was so genuine and stuff, but the more I realized it, and it was interesting, one of the people that was a great role model for me, which I didn't admit till just recently, was my mother, because she would do that. And I would always get mad at her, like, you're being positive, it's so negative, I have to be negative, you know. And when I realized her approach, like maybe I should try it. It was good. I mean, I still can sometimes fall into my trap, but I realized the goodness of my mother keeping me, keeping focus on that positive and helping to show the silver lining in things. And, we can learn from those people. And sometimes we can get annoyed at them, but learning from them and perhaps adopting a little of it myself, it helped quite a bit. Someone said, I've been trying to react to things in a positive manner. It seems to make things to go a little bit more smoothly. Yeah, it's just hard. Sometimes we can get in the habit though. I know myself, I was in the habit of it not being positive and stuff. So just being able, somebody also wrote limiting social media. Sometimes it how, and a lot of us had to do that or have to do that from time to time because sometimes it can get overwhelming and it definitely affects your mood. It affects all these other aspects of our health and our well-being. So important. So the gratitude, the affirmations, staying positive, and again, it's part of that planning, putting it into our routines, putting it into our habits. Again, going back to the wellness, thinking about ourselves holistically, thinking about ourselves not just physically or emotionally having some challenge or whatever and getting caught up, that we are strengths, we have abilities, we have capabilities, and we have needs in our wellness overall. So very, very important to keep that wellness lens, if anything, winter wellness, thinking of ourselves physically, spiritually, socially, intellectually, occupationally, financially, all of the areas, and then focusing in on those things you can do, the social connections, the keeping active, keeping our mind focused on activity, but also keeping it positive and affirming. Another thing that we can think really, really important, we know, and particularly this year, we're seeing it even more, is that staying healthy. We've learned a lot about that, keeping our physical health, again, it helps with other things, keeping ourselves in our immune system. A lot of things that I've talked about here can help our immune system that helps fight infection, keeps us well, keeps us ready to deal with some of the adversity. So building our immune system and keeping it well. And again, it goes back to some of the things I mentioned, but a few more of it. It's keeping that activity, physical activity, doing certain things that we can do that will help us, but also eating certain things, being mindful of the kind of things that we eat that we can help us be well. I don't like to focus so much on that in this winter wellness planner because we need the holidays and we need those little treats, but keeping that balance of good foods and healthy foods that can help build your immunity in terms of our the type of things we're eating and putting in our body, but also having that good physical activity can help with our immune system, our sleep and rest, and the other kinds of things you can do, perhaps in terms of, you know, keeping yourself, whether it's vaccinations, if people choose that, or practicing the social distancing, practicing the habits that are going to help us to, keep ourselves well and keep us protected from, the illnesses that are out there, and then keeping other people protected as well. Somebody wrote in the thing that they've on a retreat from social media. A lot of people have had to do that to try to keep themselves well. So building our immunity, doing those kinds of things. I'd like to hear what others might be doing to keep their immunity built right at this time. We know that through the winter, people get colds more or get sick more often. What do you do? What is your go-to activity or a thing that you do, your habit to build your immunity that you've done in the past or you're doing now? Meditation, someone wrote. Okay. What else do people do? Meditation, really good, quieting that mind. Taking vitamins, great. Drinking more water, that hydration, yeah, very important for your immune system function. Thinking about those things, you probably do a lot of these prevention steps already, but I'm sure um, somebody said some some kind of oils that you spray, flu shot, wearing the mask. That's people wearing the mask, great, flu shots, getting the shots, or getting your immunizations, doing the safe practicing, taking the vitamins, increase the vitamin C, drink more water, exercise, meditation, using essential oils. Yeah, I've recently been using the oils a little more. I have one right here too. I just kind of have them here, and it definitely affects you in a certain way. And again, it definitely affects your mood. Um, Someone says using a Fitbit and a fitness app to make easy to track. That's a really good thing. Finding those tracking systems, again, that planning, great. Eating as simply as possible as another way of building immunity. Great, great, great strategies that many of you have here doing already. And again, someone said, loving the Fitbit. Those kind of things can really help because you get that feedback, and then it helps you to see that progress you do. And that's really helpful to keep our motivation, but also to validate what you're doing and how it can be helpful. So um, as we think through this tool that I've outlined for you, and we look at the immunity, we what we do in here is that we go through these questions as we've done, and you record them, and then what we do this is people put it in like the December, we're in January now, moving into February, March. People record the top 6 things to do routinely each day and week, and that's sort of how the planner works. So you've got a little exposure to it. You can go back to use it, and again, we're past December and we're into January, but you can start using it now. And it might also be something to keep on the shelf for next year when we get back to like November or so, maybe take this out again. And we definitely will update it a little bit with the new dates. But we found that people putting it in this tool, and then they translate it into the whatever the calendar thing is, they find it to be useful as a reminder to do these top 6 things. If it's only 3 things, that's fine. That's just you have to decide what works for you. But we found that people found this was helpful to go through these exercises as we have, put them in there, and then it's just keeping it and then transforming it into your calendar system or your system, or using the planner as is. Um, and then we share it. That's the biggest thing, is sharing what you're doing with others, sharing your ideas with others. How might you share this with others? Is there any ways any of you working might share it with people you serve or families? Love to hear any ideas about how you might share this tool with others, or share your own winter wellness planner with others if you're going to opt to use this for yourself. We'd love to hear that. Create a support group, yeah. And a lot of people have done that. You can still do it now because we still have the time. And people have done that in the past when we've done that, and they really found it's helpful. And they especially met through the winter into the spring, can be really helpful. So you can do the support group. You can share it with people with your weekly self-help groups, with family and therapists to help yourself, help hold yourself accountable. Yeah, I this share with the community health workers that I supervise. Yep, that's great. What they can share with the families and clients. This can be used with children, with families, with older adults, younger adults. Can really tweak it with a lot of different groups. So we encourage you. It's downloadable. It's free take it, print it out, share it in the PDF, share it with others, and then perhaps use it as your groups as a weekly review of it, checking in with each other, supporting one another. It definitely works quite well in that way. When you can educate others or share it with others, and then or personally use it, and you know, having other people in your life know about it. We found that's very helpful. This year, I was approached by a couple people when we put it out that were using it in some family support groups for people with addictions. I was uh, they reached out, they're like, can we use this in our thing? And it was like, yes, yay, please use it. I share it widely. We love for people to take this and use it for themselves. So the material is on this web, you'll receive it. The tool is here. The materials can be used. Gail Bluebird just put into the chat to remind us the arts, which I probably didn't do a good enough job. Gail probably could talk a little more about how you can really use the arts and creative abilities can really help us, not only in the winter, I think year long, but right now in the winter, wonderful time. Gail's putting in the chat, the title of a course is Transforming Lives with the Arts. It's an elective course. It's for 3 hours that includes the history of the arts movement, a lot of practical ways to engage arts into peer practice. So there's in the chat, it's there, and we'll get that link out to you. It really will reinforce something that can be wonderful as part of an activity that you could be using as part of winter wellness. But beyond it, it's also the arts and learning more about the arts and using the arts as a wonderful tool for our recovery, sustained recovery, mental health, addiction, physical, whatever we're dealing with. It can be a very important strategy that can help many of us to get well and stay well. So thank you, Gail. And the course is on the APS website, and we'll someone said it's in the chat. That includes making sure we put the chat the link to the attendees here. So I've covered the winter wellness tools here, and I wanted to have enough time for comments or questions or feedback on this, because we share it every year. We'll be sharing it again. We want you to use it. You can contact me if you're interested in the Words of Wellness newsletter that comes out. Uh, People just love to hear either we can open it up or we can see any questions in the chat that I can answer for anyone before. There's someone said they've been learning helpful strategies to care for myself. I try to pass them on, suggesting they try a calmer approach to their issue. It's just being kind to yourself. Yes, the self-care, being kind. I usually, in one of our programs, we give a kind bar to people in the group to say, just remind yourself to be kind to ourselves, because we deserve it. Everyone does. And we may not feel it. I know sometimes I don't feel that deserving of it, but we do. So remember that we're all here. And I think wanted to just really thank everybody for participating today and sending in your questions here. People are saying they're going to share. Felt it was simple and easy to use. So please take it and use it and adapt it for your the people that could you serve, your family, your supporters. Um, um, Someone also said they found the, yes, thank you. It's on the website, the Rutgers Alcohol. I posted it up there. I actually, if you want, there's the planners up there. And there's actually some other wellness tools that I've put up on that website. I actually helped them at that Rutgers Alcohol Studies site, so that you can get that tool and some other resources up there if you want the tool. But I believe it will come with the webinar slide deck that you'll also get. So
yeah, that's right, Peggy. We're going to post it on the NIAPRS website if that's all right with you, along with the webinar recording.
Absolutely. And I think I sent you the newsletter. Yeah. I'll send it again because that newsletter fits nicely. And I'm really trying to tap into young people these days because I'm getting old and I'm learning so much from young people, and they're keeping me young. So I have a couple good articles by some young people there that I think can fit nicely with the tool today.
Great, thank you.
So, but thanks so much, everyone. We have questions we set aside. I wanted to make sure there was enough time to answer any questions. The link information to the art. Thank you, Gail, for wonderful art. I think there could be 10 workshops, one a month on arts, I think, Gail, right? I think the arts and helping people to tap in and creative arts is a wonderful tool for all of us. And hopefully you'll take that course and maybe it will reactivate for you some type of artistic a talent or ability that you have had in the past or you want to re-pursue. So thanks so much, very much for the opportunity to present today. And I'm glad I'm here today. We had tried this 2 weeks. Like I said, 2 weeks ago was the week from you know what, in a very bad week that first week, but we're now on a good roll and the new year is going to be better. And I'm hoping everyone is just going to be safe and really just spreading wellness for doing wellness for ourselves, but then spreading it with everyone else that will keep the world and ourselves and our communities whole and well again. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Peggy. As our wellness ambassador, I'm going to call you. So thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks to everyone in the audience. And we hope that you have a great weekend and be well.